"Hey all you cool cats and kittens" is a famous line once said by the famous Tiger King, or also known as Joe Exotic. So, who is Joe Exotic? Well, on the famous Netflix show that I just recently finished watching, Tiger King, one of the characters actually answered it for you when they said, it was like he was a mythical character living out in the middle of bumfuck Oklahoma who owned 1,200 tigers, lions, and bears. Sadly, he is not the only one who thinks it's acceptable to owning exotic animals and profiting off of them in cages. According to the Humane Society of the United States, in a recent survey, 90% of exotic animals die within the first year of being owned. And the other 90% of exotic animals die within the second year of being owned. That means that only 1% of exotic animals live past the age of 2. That is so crazy to me to think about. So, for the sake of the animals, say no to owning an exotic animal. Therefore, today I'm going to discuss with you why people think it's okay to own exotic animals, the negative effects it has on the animal, and why owning exotic animals not only puts the animal in harm's way, but also the owner. So, to begin, the most common reason people own exotic animals is for some kind of personal benefit. From circuses to zoos, you are probably supporting the ownership of specialty animals without even realizing it. Therefore, these are just a few of the ways that people try to benefit financially off of exotic animals. Another reason why people want to own exotic animals is because they think it will be some type of good learning experience. But why not observe the animals in their natural habitat? As owning 2 dogs of my own, I couldn't imagine owning a bear and having the time to care for the exotic animals' needs. When specialty animals are owned and kept in cages, they are normally subjected to their needs not being fulfilled. Imagine being ripped from your homeland and being placed in a small wire cage that are lacking the necessities you need to fulfill your well-being. While watching the Netflix show Tiger King, I recently noticed how the animals lack the ability to run freely and express the natural characteristics that tigers own in the wild. It's crazy to think how carefree these exotic animal owners can be for the animals' well-being. Other situations the animals were subject to at the GW Zoo by Joe Exotic were things like starving to death, being ran over to death with a 4-wheeler so Joe could sell the animals' bones to the museums, and one worker even smoked a blunt with a monkey. So, lastly, when the zoo was threatened by PETA, which is kind of like a voice for animals, they make sure that animals, it's like they're kind of like an animals' rights activist. Joe Exotic killed most of his tigers and fled. If these are not enough examples of how badly exotic animal ownership can end, let's talk about the threat it poses to the exotic animal owners. As a dog owner, I know there are threats like being bit or even being scratched, but I don't have to worry about my entire arm being bit off completely. Overall, exotic animals are domesticated by abuse, fear, starvation, while they keep their natural instincts of hunting, running, and naturally being wild. So it's like they are kind of like a ticking time bomb. You never know when they might strike or be set off by something. According to the American Veterinary Medical Association, more than 13% of U.S. households owned an exotic animal. It was also interesting to find that exotic pet ownership is more common in rural areas. Other health concerns, such as reptiles carrying salmonella bacteria, monkeys carrying the herpes B virus, and even contacting the fungal disease known as blasteomycosis after being bitten, are other examples on how owning a specialty animal can be potentially harmful. Now that I have covered the reason why exotic animals are owned and the harmful effects it has on owning not only the owner but the animal as well, Let's say no to owning exotic animals. As PETA is working hard to control the ownership of exotic animals, let's do our part and say no to owning the undomesticated animals.